Norah, to a point you were making earlier, I was thinking, I don't know that there is any office on the face of the planet where the new occupant enjoys an immediate benefit of the doubt greater than the papacy. When it's election night in America and we finally know who won, half of the country is elated and half the country is crushed. That's not the case here. Everyone in this crowd and all of those 1.4 billion Catholics around the world instantaneously want to like the new pope. They want to fall in love with this man. And so, in a sense, the bar is set fairly low. I mean, if he just comes across as nice and human, almost, people will fall all over themselves to try to support him and to have his back, so to speak, in the early stages of this papacy. Yes, left-right debates and the contentious issues in the church will come, but the primal Catholic instinct is you want to love your pope.
And it's also interesting that each of the cardinals who voted, 133 of them, their ballots have been burned. So the Pope doesn't know who voted for or against him.
Technically,
so
you shouldn't have that information.
Everybody's on the team unless somebody speaks.
Sometimes it comes out, and if you know the cardinals and you know who your friends are and you know the numbers, which they do, they have a clue. And how popular
I think to that point, it is interesting. There have been reports of some horse trading going on, pledges of allegiance in order to give someone votes, in order to set something up. How likely is that, Monsignor, that happened, that someone said, look, if you support me, I may give you this position?
It's inevitable. It's inevitable because there is a need to rally behind one candidate. It happened with Pope Benedict. It happened with Pope Francis. And so I really do believe something of that happened today. Certainly, the Pope who's going to come to us, he went forward, but he needed that threshold of 89 votes. That's quite large.
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds. And certainly one of the other cardinals who was perhaps behind him, the word is perhaps he asked his supporters to give those votes to the Pope, who will come out on that balcony, isn't it wonderful, in just a few minutes' time.
John, what do you think?
Just to fill out what the Monsignor is not saying, because of course he is a man of the cloth, is there have been reports that if the Secretary of State, Parolin, is the next Pope, that perhaps there was an agreement that was made with Cardinal Tagle of the Philippines. We don't know if that's true, but I am sharing what some of the rumors were surrounding this, if there were such horse trading and an alliance that went on to move this quickly.
Are you saying there's politics inside this?
And you joke, but there are some people who will be very scandalized to hear that kind of thing because, the traditional Catholic belief is that the conclave unfolds under the guidance of the Holy Spirit. And so some people expect this to be a very pious exercise. But, as the famous medieval Catholic theologian Thomas Aquinas reminded us, grace builds on nature. It doesn't cancel it out. What that means is the fact that there's a spiritual dimension to this process doesn't make it any less human, and therefore doesn't make it any less political. If you're going to get to a two-thirds vote and you're going to do it in 4 ballots, there had to be some kind of sausage grinding going on behind the scenes.
Politics, after all, there are people involved, right?
This is the world's oldest democratic exercise, and where there is democracy, my friend, there are politics.
And as we know from Pope Francis himself, after lunch on the second day, he had a sign that the votes were starting to coalesce behind him.
That's exactly what happened. Pope Francis went back as Cardinal Bergoglio. There was a table, lunchtime, with 1 seat left on it. A group of Italian cardinals, and they beckoned Francis to come to their table, and they gave him a question time on what are his positions on liberation theology, on the ordination of women, etc. And Pope Francis says I didn't understand it at that time. But then when he was going to the lift, one of the cardinals asked him, is it true you only have 1 lung? And he said, no, I have half a lung. But then he said, it became really dangerous for me. I knew that the election was nearing in on me.
Wow. So, Delia, as you hear these crowds singing songs and chanting, almost at a level of a football game, right? And I mean that in terms of a soccer match here in Europe. What do you think of that?
Well, I just think it's a beautiful representation of the universal church. That's what Catholic means. And even though many of those people may not be Catholic, I think obviously there is a wonderful attraction to the majesty and pageantry of the election of a new pope who symbolizes this wonderful moral authority for many people, symbolizes a tradition which has great respect around the world. And I think that is why we see so much interest. Why is there so much interest in this? This could just be a thing for Catholics, but it's a thing for the entire world. And we said that before. Even secular people are interested to know who the Pope is. And part of that is because he does stand as a moral authority
in fact,
in the world.
The first address that he will give on this balcony is called the Urbi et Orbi, which means to this city of Rome, I'm the Bishop of Rome, but to the entire world as well.
It is 7 p.m. here in Rome, 1 p.m. in the East, and it was just about an hour ago that white smoke billowed from the Sistine Chapel chimney, alerting the world that a new pope was elected. We witnessed it. Oh my gosh, the crowd went wild.
Electric moment.
It really was.
Unlike
the nuns
other.
right over here were screaming. It was just incredible, a moment people will never forget. The new pontiff will appear. That will happen shortly on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica.